All right, let's go. Uh, this is a sparse start. I only see one person on, and that would be Mudshark, of course. Hi, how you doing? Um, there is, I don't know if folks are off at the what you call it, the online meetup for iOS folks. Oh, hello, welcome, uh, Hunaid or Junaid Khan 141. I'm using RX Swift. I don't know how to test my code. Welcome. Glad to have you. I have never no, oh okay. RX Swift, RX Swift. Um yeah. I was about to say I haven't used reactive things, but yes, I have used uh reactive Swift. RX Swift is similar. But welcome. Glad to have you. And for those who are watching on YouTube after the fact, good to have you as well. I guess it's not just YouTube. A fair number of folks seem to watch the streams on Twitch, which is nice. So cheers to you as well. Um, Let me quickly introduce myself. I am John Reed, and I am a coach and trainer at Industrial Logic. It's kind of funny to say I'm a coach and a trainer. That sounds like I'm Mr. like physical, and I was always the nerd. I barely got through physical education. I was such a nerd. But here I am, living a dream I've had, a dream I grew some years ago, and now it's a reality that I am a full-time coach and trainer at Industrial Logic. It's unbelievable. Uh, for those who are watching after the fact, um, subscribe, whether that's on Twitch or YouTube, so that you get new stuff from me. And on YouTube, if you decide you like this stuff, hey, give it a like. So, Junaid, sorry if I'm butchering your name there. So using RX Swift, uh, the trick with testing any reactive stuff is you've got in reactive code, you've got this data pipeline, right? Stuff comes in and it gets processed and it goes out. And the idea is you set up your pipeline and it handles stuff as it comes. So how do you test that? Well, I test that by creating a pipeline that has like one thing in it, my input. So in that sense, it's a little more complicated than writing a usual unit test or micro test where you're like setting, you're going to set up some input and pass it into the thing and then see the results. In reactive coding, it's the same idea. It's just that what you have to do is you have to set up your data pipeline and say, well, let me jam in this one interesting thing or dumb thing, maybe. Usually it's just a dumb thing. And usually it's just a single hunk of data. It's not like a whole stream. Not usually. Not usually. You might have like, maybe it's like, okay, we're going to get complicated. Let's see if it can handle 3 things coming down the pipe. But usually, you can just say, and I would show you, but I would get lost in the syntax. You'll figure it out. Create a thing with one item in it, process that pipeline, and there you go. So that's the quick summary. Hope that helps. Hope that gets you started. RX stuff can be hard to get the testing started, at least in RxJS. I guess it's the same. Yep. The ideas are the same. So, so that's a thing. Because the ideas are the same, Junaid, you can, instead of looking up how do I test this in RX Swift on Stack Overflow, try some other, if you don't see any answers or any examples that help you, try looking for other RX technologies. And because the ideas are the same and they should apply across whatever the actual technology stack is. So thank you for jumping in there, Mudshark. That's, yeah. There we go. And we've got a few people now. At least 3 folks are on. Welcome. And Junaid, where in the world are you? I always like asking that because for me, it is still morning. I am in California. And it is 11:10 my time, but who knows? What time is it for you, wherever you are? I know, Mudshark, good evening to you. Let's see. Let me share. Before we get back into the code, a quick ad, if you don't mind, from Tunisia. Hello, Hamzaik. Yeah, I know you're in Sweden, man. I'm finally figuring that out. Well, but Hamzaik, welcome. How awesome. It is this is one of the things I love about this is the chance to interact with folks from around the world. If folks are watching live or in a recording from Ukraine, know that you are on my mind. As I think you're on everyone's mind. And Junaid in Pakistan, 11 p.m. You're up late, but glad to have you. That's part of why I played around with like what time to have the stream, and this seemed to work for most people, except for the folks in Asia, Australia, New Zealand. Not so good for them. Too early. So quick ad. What I'm doing at Industrial Logic right now is working on some new training. If you go to Industrial Logic and go into services training and into technical training, and there is, industrial iOS development. This is going to be a course, a workshop for folks that I'm working on right now, and it is going to be unlike any other. I'm really, really excited about it and just wanted to share. Here, I'll throw it in the chat in case you want to see what I'm up to these days. That's enough of that. All right. And throughout this whole time, feel free to ask questions, jump in if you have ideas, and the questions can be completely unrelated to whatever I'm doing. Ask me anything. So here we are in our discovery tree. If you've been around, you'll see that it looks different. I decided to change the lines for starters. I used to use straight lines like that, but I kind of like the cleanliness of having this sort of branching. And the other thing is, what is this giant thing out here? This, I just want to briefly explain for anyone who wants to do this I'm using Mural, but you can do the same thing on any virtual whiteboard. I originally, when I was playing around, created these markers, the stand-in for Post-its, using an area. An area is like, it's just a section of the screen into which you can drop stuff. And the main reason I did that was so that I could drop in icons, like it's done, like that. And then it would move around because you do move these around quite a bit. That's part of the dynamic nature of saying, not having a fixed task, but like being able to shuffle things. But now that we are using colors, oops, in progress to, this should be done, and we'll make this green there. Now that I'm using color coding to mark, if you're used to Kanban style development, this should look kind of familiar, except it looks completely different in the tree. Here's work to do, work in progress, and work that's done. Now that I'm using colors, I don't need icons anymore. It makes it much easier to manage sort of the information and to flip between things, to say like, change this color. So I don't need it to be an area anymore. I can have it be a plain old Post-it, a card like that. And because it's a plain old card, let me just switch this one over here. Let me grab this, slap it in, and mark it as to do, and get rid of this there. All right. So here we are. Let's figure out what's next. As I shared last time, it is really nice to be able to see even from a distance, even if it's teeny tiny like that. And the idea is that if this were on a virtual, not a virtual board, but a real board, which is where it originated, use Post-its, and you can mark them as done just by drawing a line through them. You can mark them as in progress. Here's a trick I learned from my fellow coach at Industrial Logic, Steve Kuo, who helped develop this system. He likes, instead of marking the Post-it, turning it 45 degrees. So anything that's at an angle is in progress. Right now, we have, let's get back to something we can see. So we're working on the alert verifier, and we finished up the converting these two things, the swizzling for them. It looks like I had a question here. Let's mark this as in progress and see where it goes. And last time I also tried to lean in harder to making this work. Not trying to do work in my head, but trying to express it on here. And I failed at first, and then eventually realized, oh shoot, that's what I said I was going to do. Hopefully I'll do better this time. By the way, this whole visualization of like the work to do, this is an old idea. And I'm not talking about tickets. I'm talking about like just for doing test-driven development. In my case, we're not doing TDD. This is pure refactoring. But with test-driven development, a common technique, a very helpful technique, is that as you work, you'll notice, oh shoot, we should do this other thing. You make a note. You make a note. If you're working solo, you just jot it down. I use Post-its. I also lately have been using a little whiteboard that works well for me. If you're in person coding together, well, that's what a real whiteboard and real Post-its are for. If you're working remotely, as most of us are these days. Use a virtual whiteboard. And the trick is try not to get buried in the details in the code. Get the details out of your head onto the thing. Because now I know, I'm not even quite sure what this means, but I think I remember. Let's go see what's going on with UI Alert Controller. Yep, exactly, Mudshark. I was about to check if I could remove some of the OBC annotations. So let's see if we can. And let's go over. And it was in UI Alert Controller. And let's see what we have here. Yeah. All right. The truth is in, does it compile? So let me, I don't even have to run tests, but let me run the tests. Always a good place to start. And there they are. The beauty of a pure refactoring is my tests have my back. So let's see. Let's take it out. Actually, let me mark it. Do a find here so that I can move between them. Oh, I'll add a space. There. I'll do a find. In fact, let me just say replace that. Oop. Okay, replaced one and went on to the next. But let me see if that builds. It does build. Okay. Next. Replace. Will this build? Does not build. So undo that one. Exclude it. No. Come back here. I'm trying too hard. You know, since this one builds, okay, I'm going to stop being so fancy. It confused me. I'm just going to use plain old advance to the next thing, because being a find operation, it was like, okay, I'm going to take care, or replace operation. I'm going to take care of that, move on to the next one. I'm like, no. I want to see what's going on. So just Command G. So this one, I'm pretty sure does not work. So we'll put that back. Next. Okay, that one's fine. Next. Also good. Next. Nope. Next. Nope. So that's it. We have cleaned things up a bit. I also noticed public. Public was in there probably because it was a generated thing. When app code generates calls, it prefers to make them public. Let me just clean that up as well. We'll come back around if need be. Okay, so there we are. I'm happy with that. This is a This is a test supported refactoring. So I mark it with R and it doesn't get any exclamation points because it's not risky. remove unneeded from UI alert controller. And I'll say also one public. Okay. Ta-da! And now this is done. Next, here we go. UI view controller. Let's see what's going on here for us to do inside of the context of alert verifier. Wow, we're getting close. Maybe. We'll see how bad this is. Once again, I forget UI view controller. Okay, so UI view controller here is here it is. It's got some swizzling. Oh, this is interesting. So it does swizzling to capture an alert or swizzling to capture a view controller that's on present. That's a kind of a funny name. Or dismiss. So I actually think, and we can, let me go to the implementation. If you are not used to seeing Objective-C, you're probably going blind right now, like, what the heck is all this gobbledygook? But remember that underneath your Swift code, almost everything in UIKit is Objective-C. Thank God. So here's the swizzling. Yeah. And here are the things it swizzles in. Present view controller capturing an alert. Present view controller capturing it. Dismiss. So this is really 3 parts. And I think that for the purposes of this discovery tree, so UI view controller is just going to keep popping up. But let me make a note about this, that this is the alert parts. And this way, see, by updating this right away and getting it out of my head, it's kind of like doing a commit or better, a commit and a push when you have to step away from the machine, say, oh, I gotta go do this thing. And something happens and you are, delayed from coming back, then your teammates can continue even though you have been sucked away into some other task. And that's the cool thing about updating this, is that, let's say, let's say my power went out right now, boom, the stream is done. Then, and we come back next week. Next week I would have, and I saw this, I would have much more clarity. Already I have more clarity just from breaking out this this thing. Is like, oh, what about the obfc annotations? I could have written that card better, but it was enough, actually. It was enough. Get it out of your head. So there are 3 sections. Let's just start. There's the swizzling and there's the swizzled thing. So really, there are at least 2 steps here. Swizzle capture view controller. I don't like the name of this. It incorrectly identifies that that it's never used. It actually is used, but I don't like the name because it doesn't reflect that it's capturing the present part. So I think that, okay, let me start to live in here, right? Let me just copy one of these. Command D as an easy way to duplicate. So let's start making some notes. There's the Swizzler method, which we want to convert to Swift. I'm not going to say to Swift in here because it's implied up here. There is the capture, present capturing alert. And I really want to also rename this. I don't like this name. It's not really dependent work. That is, it's not a requirement for converting UI view controller, but I want to do it because it's like a getting things done here. I've talked last time. I think I talked about GTD. One of the tricks of the getting things done discipline is to get stuff out of your head, very much like we're doing here. But another one of the tricks is if something is going to take less than 2 minutes, maybe don't make a card for it. Just do it. In this case, though, I want to be pedantic and train myself. Rename the present Swizzler. Rename Swizzler for presentation verifier. So it's not really related, but I want to do it. I want to do it and get it out of my head. And let's make some lines. I don't know if there's an easy way. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know I could do that. How to draw lines easily. I'm not sure. Guess it's just like that. I'll change the style. There we go. Now I can duplicate it. There. So even though, and this is where, as I said last time, but I'm trying to lean in this time, really as like a kata, to overdo something so that I get it in my head. This is probably something I wouldn't make a card for because it's so quick. It's so quick. But I want to develop this habit. So let's do this. Because it's incorrectly saying that this isn't used. If I do a rename here, I don't think it's going to pick it up. Let me just check. Oh, it did. Okay, good. I was afraid that it wouldn't find it, but it did. That means that AppCode has a little work to do on their Swift to Objective-C crossover as far as like what's being used. So rename this Swizzle Capture View Controller capture. This is really the capture the present. And we'll run tests. They are good. And that's better. The main reason I wanted to do this now is because we just explored and found out that this has 3 sections for each of the 3 things that you can test: alert, present, dismiss. And now it reflects that better. So this is a refactoring rename. Rename the presentation Swizzler like that. All right, on we go. Mark that. Next. Now we get into the real work. Let's convert the Swizzler method. We've done this before. We should be able to do it again. That is, I've done it for these others. So I can cheat and look at these now as hopefully as good examples, because there was some wrestling we had to do to get those others to work, and I'd rather not do that again. Mudshark remembers. Okay, on we go. And let's see one of these other examples. So like UI alert action has its swizzle thing there like that. So let's start off by creating something much like this. In fact, let me just copy this whole thing. No, not the whole thing. That much. And this is going to be a new Swift file, UI view controller plus QCO mock. Needs to go in both targets. There's both a iOS and tvOS support for this. Let me slap that in, and this is UI alert, UI view controller. Can't type. All right, and here's our example. And this, because nothing is calling it, should still build. So I want to get this in. So technically, there is, actually working on something different right now. Let's make a little room here. Let's visualize things. And say this is create an MD Swift extension. I'm being very, very nitpicky. And it feels good to me because tests pass and I can commit this. This is a feature. It's really a refactoring in progress. So I'm going to say create an empty extension for UI View Controller. Commit. Now back to where we want to go. Let's bring up these. Actually, I'll just copy it over. So here's the one we're working on. Like that. There we go. All right. So this is the Objective-C side of things. Here's where we're going to play. As usual, I'm going to create something with a slightly different name. I added a 2 just so that I'm repeating myself, but if you've been around, you're starting to get the hang of this. Parallel change refactoring. Lay down the new thing before we switch to it. Let's see. So this is going to be this is interesting, and I should note this. I'm saying UI View Controller dot, but I learned recently from using Swift Lint, I think it was, and it said, hey, you could change this to self now in Swift, depending on what version of Swift you're using. So let me note that as work to do up here. This is call I typed period there, but it looks too much like the end of a sentence, so I'm trying to make this clear to me. And there we go. Now, again, I found something, I noticed something, and I don't want it to distract me, but I don't want to forget it either. So on we go. Oh, this is done. This is what we are doing. Getting better at this. Whoops. This is what we are doing. All right. I'll come back to that question in just a minute. UI View Controller, replace instance method, not the class method. Okay, I found it. Replace an instance method of let's see if we can do this. Present. I think the hardest part of, not UI alert action. Yeah, self is a nice thing. I mean, it does make it easier to copy stuff. UI present. Okay, here we go. Present view controller animated completion. That's this one, is because it's got the 3 arguments. Oops. Come on, I want the one with 3. Let me just copy this in here. Okay, so this is going to be unnamed, followed by animated. I'm trying to get to the parameter names, followed by completion. I think that there. It looks happy, except I need a closing paren there. Okay. Cool. With the same thing, except with this long name. And here's our first hurdle I was wondering about is how do we get this over from the Objective-C side to the Swift side. Let's see how it's defined. So here it is. Oh, it's defined, but and this is one of the many nice things about AppCode is that I can see from can you see these little arrows in the left gutter here? They are for going to and from between the definition and the declaration, the header and the implementation. And you see this it's not in the header. If I go there, there will be no present blah, blah, blah. Nope, it's not in there. It's essentially private as Objective-C can be. So now again, AppCode to the rescue. I'll say declare it. And it's got a nullable notation here. So I think I've had trouble with this before. Let me just check to see how this has gone. Yeah. It's the completion block. Yeah, I got confused on that end. All right, that's okay. I'm pretty sure I've opened a ticket for this, but I doubt that JetBrains is focused on Objective-C a whole lot these days. And why is it unhappy? Expecting a parameter name, completion. View controller, probably just completion, that. I could wrap this and so forth, but as long as it builds, since this is temporary, I'm not going to worry about line wrapping right now. So this should satisfy it. This may be a ghost error now. Let's find out. Oh my gosh. It's Janos94. Ha ha. Love the extra animations you have. Are those things? Is that the kind of stuff that you get for being a actual paid subscriber on Twitch? I never understood the distinction. Do you get cool reactions like that? I like it. Anyway, good to see ya. Let's find out if this is a ghost error by seeing if this will compile. It does not. Boo. It could be, and this is where we wrestle. One of the hardest parts of Swizzling across languages is the way we translate Objective-C syntax to Swift syntax. So it's a custom emoji from one of the streamers, a graphic designer. I love it. It's so good. Very, very cool. Good to have you. And I have no idea what these other things are. Like it says cheer to be number one. I don't know. What is cheering exactly? Beats me, but maybe I don't know. Probably it's probably only for folks who get like, have one of those streams that where the chat is just going. It's not this one, but I'm glad to have all 4 of you folks. All right, let's see if we can get this QCO mock. Oh. Let's find out if I got that name right. Not necessarily. I'm going to try something else, and let's see if we can. Let me save that. And I'm going to see if auto-completion helps me. Look at that. What is this? Okay, so here's the thing that Swift was doing is it says you've got view controller in the name. In Objective-C, very wordy. Because the first argument is view controller, we get rid of that for you. So let's try. Whoop. That, oh, it changed color. I don't know. There we go. Got it. All right. So technically this is implement Swizzler method. And one more step. We want to implement it, and then we also want to switch to it. You see how this tree keeps changing as I discover things, as I note what to do, and we do it. It's all good. So the red here is now a ghost error. I'll leave this up here for now, in case I need to refer to it. So let's commit this. Nothing is calling it, but let me run tests just in case. All right, so this is one nice thing about another. I'll keep bragging on AppCode. It's not a perfect IDE, but it's way better. You notice that it shows me typos in my commit message. Swizzler, it doesn't understand. I could add that to the dictionary. Xcode also has spell checking, but you have to turn it on explicitly, and I doubt that it picks it up in the commit messages. Let's commit that. Cool. We think we're done. I have a good feeling about this, but let's see. One can never tell with code, right? Let's try switching to this new thing. So where we have QCO mock Swizzler Captcha alert, I could have just grabbed it up there. Oh, I can go here. Will it show me? Okay, it does show me. All right, so maybe the grayed out. Okay, it's just a funny color. It's not actually indicating that it's not used. All right, here it is. So I can do right here in the search part. I can try switching to the new call, and here's the first real test. Success. Again, I'm going to be pedantic here and be more detailed than I might be in real life, but I'm trying to learn. I'm doing this to learn, and hopefully to teach. All right, so switch to new Swizzler method. Don't mark it as done until it's integrated. Remove old. More steps. Rename Swizzler, remove. Marking it. As part of my routine process, switch to the new thing, remove the old thing, change the name. So this is done because it's committed. Here's the next thing. Thanks, Mudshark. You always got my back. For anyone who hasn't seen me do this before, this is the level of detail of refactoring steps that I want to do in real life. I may not draw them out like this. This might be too detailed for a real discovery tree with a team, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I'll have to ask other folks who have used discovery trees. So far, my only experience with a discovery tree has been me doing it here, but also with a client where they weren't doing it at this level. But I'd like to know from the creators of the inventors of the discovery tree, and I happen to work with one of them. I can ask him, how detailed are you for real? All right, so what are we doing? Remove the old. See, I look at it, my mind goes elsewhere. I'm like, oh, this is where it would be nice, of course, to have this on a separate monitor, but that's not something that we want in a stream. Remove the old Swizzler method. Say it out loud. Okay. Let's remove the old one. That's two parts, actually, or two steps. One is, well, here it is. I don't want that anymore, but also here. Let's safe delete it. And it deleted it from the header as well. As you can see, the .h popped up here, and that should take care of that. We are still good. And this, need to use the right colors here. This is done. This is next. I think I'm going to wrap up pretty soon. So for anyone watching who hasn't been here before, I like to keep my streams to 1 hour. I'm loving this, and it sort of slows down the progress by having only 1 hour per week. But everyone has other lives, and I want to honor your life and mine because you've got things to do. Maybe, hopefully, more important things than this. There's a lot more important things than this. All right, what am I doing? Removing the 2. All right, so this is a straight rename. I picked it up, run tests, test pass. So now that is successful. And now this time I'm going to commit and push. I haven't been pushing this whole time, but and normally in a team, I would recommend that you do. If you work in a team that does trunk-based development, maybe that's something we should talk about real quick. Anyway, I'm going to commit and push, which is going to be, it wants, needs some credentials, I guess. All right, it's pushed up, and I'll soon know from my my CI run if it is successful. Like, why don't we go take a look? If I look for SPI, we can see it is doing 2 actions right now, or two workflows. One is update markdown snippets. This is a nice thing that I've learned from pairing with Luella and Falco on approval tests, is that the documentation gets code samples directly from the code. And so that's that step. But here's the one that I care about, which has this. I don't know if you can. Oh, look at that. I can make that bigger. It's got a set of does it just build on a few places and one build and test. And then Carthage, PodSpecLint, and an auto merge of doing any automated updates from Dependabot. What was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about what I just did. Committing straight to the trunk or to main. Obviously, on a project that I own, in this case, this is my repo. You know, you don't open pull requests against your own repo, right? If you have an open source repo like this. So here's a puzzle for you. It's treated as an annoying saying, or like a Zen koan. If you don't open pull requests against your own repo, why do you do so at work? That's your repo. Pull requests are one of the worst things to come into corporate software development. They were made for this, open source. I don't want folks committing willy-nilly to View Controller Presentation SPI. This is not their code. They're not part of my team. Now, if we were working together on it, I trusted them, then they would have push rights. Why is your team different? Why do you have pull requests? And usually the answer is, well, we need to review the code. Well, absolutely you need to review the code. Yes. Why do you do that at the very end? That's like doing the difference between test driven and test after. Or I should say, not even test driven. There's a softer version of test first. Test first versus test after. Test first moves the test up in the process, the testing, so that you don't come to the end and say, oh my gosh, now I have to do like this and make these changes and make it testable. Same idea for doing code reviews. Instead of doing the code review at the end, after all the work has been done, that's like the worst time to do a code review. Instead, review the code as you write it. How do you do that? By working together, not in isolated individual silos. So that's my pitch for pair programming, or even better, ensemble programming. Yeah, if you don't do pair programming, you definitely need a second pair of eyes to check your code. And you know, that's why people love pull requests, because they are under the illusion that it makes them efficient. Basically, I want just to code by myself, as if that were the most efficient thing. But you're not, that's optimizing the wrong thing. Personal efficiency is not the same thing as team productivity. And if you're on a team, don't we want to optimize for team flow, delivering value to all the way through to the end to your customer as soon as possible? That is the name of the game of agility. And that's the end of my preaching for today. It's still getting a slow start here on the build and test. I'm not going to wait for this to be done. I think we are at a good point to stop for today. So thank you for putting up with my my rant. It's not a rant, I hope. I hope it was gentler than that. About pull requests. Oh, there it goes. Hang on a second. Off it goes. It's now built. It's now tested. Next thing is Carthage and PodSpec lint, and those things will finish pretty quickly, and then it'll go through. So I'm pretty happy with this. Thank you for joining this time, and thanks for coming by, including the folks who came at the end. Good to have you. Check out the recording of this obviously will be on Twitch for, I don't know how long they're retained there. Is it like a week? Is it more than a week? Is it a couple weeks? There's some policy there for low-level Twitch streamers like me. But after 24 hours, then according to the Twitch agreements, I can post this on YouTube, where it will be available to folks, and you can go watch it there. I've got a whole bunch of my long list of links here has grown, and I want. Oh yeah, one more thing before I close. Let me just mention this. So I added industrial logic there, which is okay, this is easier. That's where I work, and normally, I've never put where I work in these streams before, because it's like, yeah, this is my code. But my employment, because I'm now a coach, I'm doing what I love, and I'm eager to promote my activities there. Quality Coding, my website, YouTube, Facebook. Facebook is not that interesting, honestly. I'm debating how valuable it is. It's not where people are. Twitter, a lot of activity on Twitter. I added Twitch on here. Those of you who are watching now, obviously you know where I am, but I realized that it wasn't obvious to anyone watching the recording on YouTube. I mean, I try to put a link in there in the description, but there it is. And then finally, one more, I added my LinkedIn. Why did I do that? Especially because it doesn't say Quality Coding there. It says John Reed. That's me. The reason I added LinkedIn there is because I'm discovering that it is becoming a more vibrant place for the types of discussions I like to have on social networks around coding. And like I post, I'm now trying to post stuff on Twitter, and I say, oh shoot, I should also copy this over to LinkedIn. There are now plenty of times where I will share a thought in both places, and it will have a lot more discussion, especially the controversial ones. It will have a lot more discussion on LinkedIn these days. Surprise, maybe it's actually becoming a social network, not just a professional networking thing. So I thought I'd put that on there so you can come find me, and that might be a good place to see not just what I post, but how others respond and interact with the things I post. Okay, if you've liked this recording and you're on YouTube, give it a like. If you're watching on Twitch, hey, subscribe, and hope to see you next week. We'll carry on in our work to convert this thing all the way over to Swift. With that, take care.